Good morning, Gary in San Diego. I'm here today to deliver my seminar for the Bebop tuning on the Chromatic Harmonica. This is a presentation I'm going to make in August in San Antonio, Texas for the annual SPAH convention, and so this is my opportunity to practice this, but also to get the information out to people who will not have the luxury of spending a week with other harmonica players learning everything there is to know about the harmonica that they can and having a good time. So let's begin with the standard tuned diatonic harmonica, because that's where this all came from. It's the oompa instrument you used to seeing Grandpa play. That the crafty African American played in a draw position. To invent the blues, as far as I'm concerned. So chromatic harmonica comes from the tuning on the diatonic harmonica on holes 4 through 7. That pattern is blow, draw, blow, draw, blow, draw, draw, blow. And they reverse it on hole number 7 so that you can have the chord all the way across the face as a blow chord. So because of that, the pattern reverses on hole 7. And that's okay for a diatonic harmonica. It only reverses in one place. But when you get to the chromatic harmonica, where it has the same tuning in every octave, it puts two C notes next to each other. And even more puzzling is the fact that the breath direction is in every octave. So hole 4, hole 8, and hole 10 all have a breath direction reversal such that the draw note is lower than the blow note. Forgive me if you don't quite follow, but you can always rewind this or ask a friend. So the tuning on the diatonic harmonica is the same as the tuning on the chromatic harmonica, but only in the middle octave of the diatonic harmonica. The bottom has a repeated note and two missing notes. Down there. And then the top octave is different. We won't talk about that. So the top octave, let me see, the breath reversal on the diatonic is repeated on the chromatic harmonica in every octave. I'm not reading this verbatim, I'm just sort of talking to you. And the action of the slide is unchanged. So the draw button note is the same as the blow note, the reverse of what you find on the second hole, where the blow button note is the same as the draw note. I will explain. That F note is the same as the draw note on hole number 2, or 6. But on 4 and 8, it's backwards, so the draw button note is the same as the blow note, as opposed to hole 3, where the draw note is the same as the button blow note. I think that's backwards, because otherwise I would have written it down here. So this was not by design. They threw the solo tuning onto a chromatic instrument for convenience, because people were familiar with the diatonic harmonica. There had been several million units sold already. And the chromatic harmonica was a major innovation. You were able to play 12-tone music, in other words, the black notes on the piano. But the tuning was just sort of, oh, you already know this, let's throw it on there. And that puts 3 C notes next to each other, because not only those 2, but also the button draw. All C notes, 3 C notes. That, you know, if you, let's say you wanted to have 2, and I do like having in what are called enharmonics, 2 notes that are the same. You certainly don't need 3. Now, having said that, there are countless hundreds of excellent chromatic harmonica players who have worked within the framework of solo tuning, and they've produced wonderful music on the harmonica. Some have produced fantastic music on the harmonica, but it's like that commercial where all I was doing was managing my symptoms. They've done it by overcoming the limitations of this tuning, not by um, exploiting it. And there are other great players, some might say fantastic, who use altered tunings to make learning and playing the chromatic harmonica easier. Brendan Power is the name that always comes up whenever I start talking about this, because not only is he a technician and an innovator on the instrument, but he also plays pretty darn nice. And one of the reasons he can do that is because he's using alternate tunings. So this talk is about a tuning he does not use, but I do, and I'm touting it, and it is the Bebop tuning. Bebop tuning changes the last C note, hole number 4, to B flat, the 7th of the C scale. It's the flat 7. This allows the chromatic to be played in F without the press of slide button, and it does a couple of other things too. First, here is the key of F with the slide button. So you can see that the B flat has to be played with the button. There's no B flat given. Whereas on this instrument, there he is, hole number 4. This is a 14-hole instrument, so hole number 4 starts 2 holes up. But you can hear it's the same. It is a same instrument. Much of the music that, as musicians, we produce uses pairs of notes. It doesn't matter what instrument you use. And the major scale is 7 notes, so that's an odd number. By adding an additional note on our instrument, we even out the givens of the chromatic. There's now 8 notes in the scale. We also eliminate the breath shift, since hole 4 has B on the draw. On hole number 2, it's E, F, F sharp. On hole... Oh, I skipped a line. In fact, we give hole 4 the same melodic contour that hole 2 has. Blow, blow button, which is the same as draw, and draw button. Here it is on hole 4. Let's start with 2. E, F, F sharp. So blow button, draw button. Same thing on the melodic contour is the same. The blow button note is the same as the draw note. So that's consistent. There are enharmonics on every one of the holes, every one of the notes on hole 4. That's as opposed to standard solo tuning where there are 3 C notes, but only 1 B flat and only 1 B. Of course, we lose the C sharp enharmonic, but we also lose what I like to call the out of tune adjacent blow pairs, C and C sharp. Check this out. That phasing is caused by the fact that it's darn near impossible to tune those 2 notes exactly the same. Kind of an accordion-like sound, or a tremolo. That's pretty consonant. But you don't have to worry about it if both those notes are not C or C sharp. And let's see where we are. Sorry, I have a script. It'll be worse at SPAH. The B flat given is the first flat note in the key signature. Circle of fifths. Key signatures indicate sharps or flats, and they put you in a different key than the white keys on the piano. First flat is B flat. That puts you in F. So this instrument's capable of playing in C or F without the button push. And what that means is that then you can also play in the button key, C sharp or F sharp, without a button release. Now, F sharp or C sharp are not hugely popular. Clair de Lune's in D flat, but most pieces are not. Nevertheless, by virtue of the tuning, you have four of the 12 scales that you can play either without a button push or with the push and without a button release. So that's an advantage. It's worth mentioning that the retuning of the harmonica, which I personally do as a business venture, if you want your harmonica retuned or if you want to buy a harmonica from me that has been retuned, it's non-invasive. If you decide to go back to standard solo tuned chromatic harmonica, it's really easy to remove that silver solder from the tip of the reed in question. It doesn't hurt the harmonica to change it, and that's worth knowing because you don't want to F up a perfectly good chromatic harmonica. Another virtue of this tuning is the availability of two-note chords. Now, chromatic harmonica is not a chord instrument, but by playing two notes at a time, you can get some different chord voicings. They're not true chords, they're dyads, not triads. And there are four additional dyads using the B flat and B notes on hole 4. So I'm just going to do the ones that are different. No, I'm not. I'm going to go ahead and play all the chords. So here's C, C sharp, D. It looks like a dyad. It's you have to block hole 2. Not something I'm real good at. There it is. And you do the same thing for E flat. But on bebop tuning, you have a dyad that's the 3rd and the 5th. That's nicer. Same thing with the E note. You have a 2-note E chord, the G sharp and the B flat sharped. It's below button 4. It's a B note. F is draw 1 and 2. G is 4 and 5 draw. A flat is 4 and 5 draw with a button in. There's no chord for A. There are no two places. A is A, C sharp, E. It's not possible to play any two of those notes together on either of these instruments. So sad, no A chord on a chromatic harmonica. B flat, 5 and 6 draw. So there's your B flat chord. There's your B chord. And then we have some minor chords that are also achievable on the chromatic, but I'm not going to go on to that for right now. Suffice it to say that there are some chords you can play on chromatic if you know where the notes are, and that there are two extra ones, 2 extra minors, 2 extra majors when you use this tuning. So that's an advantage as well. It's worth, in the interests of complete candor, it's worth mentioning that bebop benefits the flat keys totally, but it doesn't do much for a few sharp keys, notably A and D. On standard tuned chromatic harmonica, the C sharp is available on hole 4. That makes for a smoother transition from the draw B. But the transition from B flat to C can be played several different ways since both notes have enharmonics. Let me go ahead and go through the key of A just to show you what I mean. Whereas on the chromatic, I think that the real virtue is because there's 2 of those C notes that can be played as C sharps. I don't practice much on standard. You can stay on the fourth hole to get to this C sharp. There's no C sharp on hole 4 on a bebop tuned harmonica, so you have to move like that. Whereas here, it's a bigger jump. You could do either one on standard tune. Now, bebop tuning that I like is not the only alternative to solo tuning, and I like some of them as well. Just to go through them fairly quickly, diminished tuning. All holes are tuned the same. They're tuned like hole 2. Oh no, I take it back. They're tuned like hole 1 and 3. Blow, button, draw. I'm sorry, I'm pointing the wrong way. Blow, button, draw, button. So C, 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 C sharp, D, D sharp, E flat, right? And that's the same on every hole, but the next hole starts on the draw button note. So it'd go, and so on. So that the arpeggios are diminished chord. I don't have a demi handy here, although I'm making one for a client. This is a nice tuning. There's chords for all 12. There's 2-note chords for all 12 keys, but it doesn't. First of all, it takes a lot more retuning, so it's hard to acquire a new instrument unless you have somebody like me who can do it for you. And the other thing is, it's not in a certain key. It's equally uncomfortable in all keys, whereas the chromatic harmonica really is comfortable in a few keys. In other words, it's possible to quickly become accustomed to where the notes are and play it by instinct. Short of that, it takes years to learn to play the chromatic harmonica well. It probably takes years anyway. So that's diminished tuning. I'm not touting that. There's another version of the diminished tuning where all notes are tuned like hole 2, and I tried that for a while. I even got my name associated with it at overblow.com, so it's called the gnarly tuning. But it's not my tuning. Dr. John Yeadon of I think he's from Yorkshire, is actually the first person to have put that forward as an option. And it's a diminished, tuning, and so it's not anything that I necessarily am presenting here. Suffice to say, there are 2 kinds of diminished tunings. Similarly, with augmented, there are 2 kinds of augmented tuning. The simplest version of augmented tuning is just like hole 1, again, blow, blow button, draw, draw button. But now when you go to the next hole, there's no inharmonic. So the next note is the next note in the scale. So it'd go... and then the next hole would go... and then you're back at hole 1 again. So there's 3 holes per octave. Blow, blow button, draw, draw button, with the notes ascending chromatically. The chords produced on this tuning are all augmented, so the only interval on 2 adjacent holes is a major third. By virtue of that, you can play every chord, all 12 chords, simply leaving the 5th out and playing the major 1 to 3, or play all the minor chords, leave the root out, and that what was 1 to 3 is now the top part of the whole minor 3 to 7. I'm sorry, minor 3 to 5 in a chord 1 3 5. I'm going fast. Sorry. The other augmented tuning that some people like is called slippy, and the button raises at a whole step instead of a half step. See, normally on chromatic, the button is a half step, but not on slippy. And I won't go into that too much because, again, this isn't the nature of this seminar. There is another tuning for the slide harmonica that is catching on in the chromatic harmonica world with one guy, David Fairweather. Hi, David. And there's a few other people who are pursuing it as well. It takes a diatonic tuning called 4-key, Newton 4-key, and it, which is pentatonic in nature. So it's 5 holes per octave. And it takes that and puts it onto a slide instrument. The slide raises each tone a half step. Again, this isn't about that, but there are other alternate tunings for the slide instrument. None of these are based on solo tuning, and as such, they require the player to relearn the instrument truthfully. Bebop tuning changes only one note, so relearning is much easier. In fact, I can play a standard tuned chromatic harmonica until I get to the B flat. I'm gold, but there's no B flat given. Let's see. In conclusion, hey, my position is that bebop tuning affords the player an alternative to solo tuning that is logical and easy to learn. As one user put it, it was Danny Perrone. Bebop made the most sense to me because only a minor modification slash retuning resulted in so many benefits. So here's the blues in G. The blow chords are dominant. Got the G on the bottom. That's another reason I like the 14 hole. I guess I need them in all 12 keys. Okay, having said that, I really don't recommend the use of keyed chromatic harmonicas. It's better if you learn where the notes are. But there are only certain keys that are going to be comfortable. So like for me to do that thing I just did, noodle on the blues in G, to do it in any other key, well, in almost every other key, in most other keys, would not be as comfortable. For example, here's the blues in E, and this will sound fairly awful, probably. Sound as awful as I might have thought, but it didn't sound great either. I'm not comfortable in it. I have to think too much. So, you know, it's not going to make it possible to do the blues in all 12 keys in a fluid manner such as I manifested just now in the key of G. So I wind up playing the blues in G a lot. Nothing so wrong with that. You don't modify the tuning enough to make it impossible to play most things. Now, having said that, I'm playing with a real relaxed embouchure, so lots of chords. If you tried to do that on a bebop tuned harmonica, you'd get the C7. C7 probably not the right chord for Moon River, so you need to be more discreet. I just hit the B flat and then hit the slide in, so I get the B natural. So you do have alternatives, and of course you want to be able to play the chromatic harmonica as a single note instrument anyway. It's not a chord instrument, so you need that facility. Still in all, it's nice to be able to just wail every once in a while, go, but you don't have that chord. So that's a caveat. If you want to play Moon River with a relaxed embouchure all the time, or any other song in the key of C where you need that C chord, you have to avoid the B flat if you don't want it, if it's not appropriate. You know, most jazz standards, the old top 30 of the 1930s and 40s, all that stuff was based on major sevenths, and the B flat in the key of C is not a major seventh. But this gives you two dominant seventh chords, getting away from the pretty major seventh. One is the C7 I just mentioned, but the other truly is the G7 that exists as the D minor 6, that is the normal draw. So that chord is always on it was on mine and on bebop tuned, and it's on standard tuned harmonica. So you get two dominant seventh chords. But only, if you're in that key, does that work. Oh, or if you're... There's no D chord. You got to manufacture it the same way you do it on diatonic. But it does make it a better chord instrument, and it does make it lots more fun to play in my estimation. The greatest benefit, in closing, is the change so that there's no breath direction reversal. Because when you're playing intuitively and you get to a hole and everything's upside down, you go, why am I playing this? And you put it in a drawer and then it never gets played again. This makes it more sense. That's what Dan said. It makes sense to tune your harmonica this way. Having said that, no major manufacturer produces a bebop-tuned chromatic harmonica. That's where I come in. So, gnarlyheman@gmail.com. Just drop me a line and let me know that you'd like me to retune your chromatic harmonica. Give it a try. This concludes my seminar on the bebop tuning on the chromatic harmonica. And go make some noise. Thanks. Bye.